Hello, my name is LaDaniel Sims. I will be covering the endocrine system with this chapter. I will be going over intracellular communication, the different classes of hormones, and the multiple effects of hormones on different types of cells. First things first is intracellular communication is when animal cells secrete signals. There's two types of things that happen: the secreting cell and the root taking by the cell. The signal and reaching its target. There are 5 different forms of intracellular communication. The first one being endocrine signaling, where hormones secreted into the extracellular fluid by the endocrine cells, and they reach their target cell through the bloodstream. And an important function of endocrine signaling is to maintain homeostasis. We know homeostasis is how we keep our normal temperatures, even if the temperatures that we're at are different. It's how we maintain our normal body temperature core. The next 2 types are paracrine and autocrine signaling. The 2 types of these signaling are secreted with local regulators. They're molecules that cover short distances, but they reach their target cell mainly through diffusion. In paracrine signaling, secreted molecules diffuse locally and trigger a response in the neighboring cells. This means that the secreted molecules go out and go to the neighboring cells. It doesn't go anywhere else but to the neighboring cells. And the next type is autocrine signaling. The secreted molecules diffuse locally and trigger a response in the cell that secreted them. And a main function of these 2 is with the nervous system, with reproduction and blood pressure regulation. The last 2 types of intracellular communication are synaptic signaling and neuroendocrine signaling. These secreted molecules are crucial for neurons, which are brain cells. We know that there are cells in the brains. It's either they end at a synapse at a muscle cell or at another axon terminal of a neuron, another brain cell. And what's secreted by these are usually neurotransmitters that are that diffuse down to the next neuron or into the muscle cell. And the only difference is in neuroendocrine signaling, the neurohormones diffuse into the bloodstream and trigger a response in the target cells anywhere into the body. Next, I will be going over the chemical classes of hormones. The one to the farthest left are the steroid hormones. They all derive from cholesterol. And one way you can always tell these is they always have a 4-carbon fused ring within them, noting the cholesterol. It's a lipid. The one in the middle are the amines. These all derive from the amino acids, either tryptophan or tyrosine. And the last one to the far right is the polypeptide hormone. I have an example of insulin. They have 2. It's either an alpha helix core or a beta linkage core in between that one. And those are the 3 classes of the hormones. And lastly, I'll be going over the multiple effects of the hormones. The epinephrine neurotransmitter will either bond to different types of cells, and in these cells they elicit different responses depending on the receptor or the type of cell that receives it. Epinephrine can bind to a liver cell or the skeletal muscle blood vessel in this example right here. So what would happen is the epinephrine would bind to the beta receptor, and the glycogen deposits within the liver cell. The glycogen then breaks down and the glucose is released within the liver cell. And in the same case where epinephrine binds to a skeletal muscle blood vessel, the beta receptor with skeletal muscles, the blood vessel dilates in this example to where the skeletal muscle will get different in the size that it's in. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Naila Tucker, and today I will be discussing 45.2. So first, this is an image of an invertebrate's endocrine system, which is in insects. First, I want to discuss what exactly is an invertebrate. An invertebrate consists of mollusks, flatworms, sea urchins, and insects. In this image, it describes the molting process in an insect. So first I want to talk about the neurosecretory cells. The neurosecretory cells hold the different hormones, and in this case it's holding the brain hormone. The brain hormone is secreted and it's sent to the prothoracic gland. In that prothoracic gland, it has the ecdysone. In the ecdysone, it goes to the early larva, the later larva, and the pupa, which tells the process of the molting process. And here at the top you have the low juvenile hormone. You actually have the juvenile hormone. I'm sorry. The juvenile hormone tells about the results of what the molting process is going to be. And this is an example in invertebrates of how their endocrine system and the secreting hormones work together to get one common goal and one thing done. So what I learned when researching and studying the endocrine system is that a lot of times they use invertebrates to study the endocrine system and relate it to the vertebrates. And that takes me to my next point, which is the vertebrate's endocrine system. So first, we're going to discuss the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a region of a lower brain that caters to the different neurosector cells and the hormones. And these are the neurosector cells of the hypothalamus. It is also connected to the posterior and the anterior pituitary gland. First, I want to talk to you about what exactly is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland. Its main purpose is to produce hormones and release them into the body. So, as I just said before, you have these two different parts of the pituitary gland. Here is the posterior pituitary gland, and it secretes two hormones, the antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. As we've discussed before, the antidiuretic hormone goes to the kidney tubules, and it has a great impact on our urine and the concentration within it. Also, oxytocin. Oxytocin has a big impact on females and how their contraction works and their body when they're carrying humans. And next, I wanted to discuss the anterior pituitary gland. The anterior pituitary gland is not like the posterior. The anterior does both tropic and non-tropic hormones. And here is an example. You have FSH and LH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, and the different hormones, prolactin, that have a impact on the body. And it also discussed the growth hormone. In this slide, we're discussing the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland regulates growth and development and the rate of metabolism, which is really important. And as you see here, it works in a negative feedback loop. And I know many of you may be confused. You have the T4 and the T3. The T3 is I'm trying to remember how to pronounce this. It's the autothyroxine, and then the T4 is the thyroxine. And it leaves the pituitary gland, it goes to the thyroid gland, and then it goes to places such as the kidneys, the heart, and the liver as well. And it tells how to control the rate of metabolism within the body, which is really important in trying to keep our bodies up and working functionally as they should. Last, I'm going to be talking about the hormonal regulation of the growth hormone. That is really important because the growth hormone, as I stated before, comes from the anterior pituitary gland, and it's both non-tropic and tropic. So with the human growth hormone, it promotes growth and it also has a direct impact on the metabolic rate of that person. So here you see what they call giganticism. And that is when too much of the human growth hormone is secreted. And as you can see, that has a big impact on that person because it can also have an effect on their metabolic rate, how their body reacts to illnesses and things of that nature. And that is the end of 45.2. Thank you.
Hello, my name is LaJoanna Banger, and I will be talking about the endocrine glands respond to diverse stimuli and regulate homeostasis, development, and behavior. On this slide, calcium ions are essential to the normal functioning of cells. Homeostatic control of blood calcium level is vital. When the blood level falls substantially, skeletal muscles begin to contract. And when the blood level rises, it precipitates the level of calcium phosphate the body can form in the tissues. Parathyroid hormones happens when the blood of Ca2 level falls below a set point of about 10 milligrams to 100 milliliters. In this image, it shows that the PTH raises the level of blood that Ca2 through direct effects in bones, in the kidneys, and the intestines. And it promotes the activation of vitamin D and increases calcium reabsorption. And it also shows how the PTH activates calcium and phosphate ions released into the blood. The response to stress, the adrenal glands are located at the top of the kidneys and vertebrates, as you've seen on the other slide. This is a coordinated set of psychological changes that is triggered by two hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine, I guess. Yeah. A class of amino hormones synthesized from the amino acid tyrosine. And this shows what happens when the human body reacts to stress. It releases hormones, which is ACTH, which is triggered off in the nerve cell, which goes down to the adrenal gland in the kidney. And the effects of the epinephrine is the glycogen breaking down to glucose, increased by blood glucose. It also increases the blood pressure, and it increases the breathing rate. And it has a change in blood flow patterns, leading to increased alertness and decreased digestive and kidney activity. The effects of minerals is the retention of sodium ions and water by kidneys, increased blood volume and blood pressure. Proteins, fats broken down and converted to glucose, leading to increased glucose. Immune system may be suppressed. The pineal gland, which is located within the brain, secretes the melatonin, which functions in biological rhythms related to reproduction and sleep. Release of melatonin is controlled by the SCN, the region of the brain that functions as a biological clock. Hormones have acquired distinct roles in different species over the course of evolution. Prolactin stimulates milk production in mammals but has diverse effects in other vertebrates. In response to stress, neosecretory cells in the adrenal medulla releases epinephrine, which mediates various fight or flight responses. As you can see in this diagram, it shows how stress affects the human body and how it's triggered. Sex hormones regulate growth, development, reproduction, and sexual behavior, although the adrenal cortex produces small amounts of these hormones. The gonads, testes, and ovaries serve as the major source. All three types, androgens, estrogens, and progestins, are produced in males and females, but in different proportions. Thank you, and that is the end of my slide.